in my ways, I am changing every single move you're making. Since I've analyzed predictions far beyond the comprehension, I've been tortured with arriving thoughts that stop a star from shining. Kill me now before I'm sober, so I die before it's over. My skin's dying because you're under it. I'm done lying to myself for this, for all the wonder and believing that it's making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as obsolete.
Quite the interesting choice of music on my part, I'll admit. That was Jeff Harvey and Parax Y Gen. Hopefully I said that right. Obsolete. Fell in love with that song ever since he did the whole broken gimmick in Impact Wrestling. Welcome to another edition of The Game Changer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a star-studded week and starts right here tonight. I am indeed Nate the Effing Great, and I'm being joined here by a very lovely, lovely young woman. She is a great supporter in the wrestling community, especially on Twitter. She is a podcaster as well as the newest member of the Wrestle Addict Radio. Who got next? Definitely tune into that, you guys, in January, as she will be a part of that. She is the one, the only Miss MJ. How are you doing this lovely night?
Well, you played a Jeff Hardy song, so I'm doing great.
Well, I mean, it's not like I knew that you were a big, Jeff Hardy fan, but
no, I'm actually wearing a Jeff Hardy sweater right now.
Yay! Jeff Hardy night tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I legit will say this, that Jeff Hardy, or as Mike Adamley would say, Jeff Harvey, is still one of those guys that everybody just seems to talk about, and I can understand why so many fans, including yourself, are still on the Jeff Hardy bandwagon, even though I'm one of those people that's just like, dude, take care of yourself, please. Just maybe not so many SWAT-tons, maybe every once in a while. Just, I don't want to see you in a wheelchair, man. You got 2 lovely daughters and a wife who love you. Just don't hurt yourself too much. No more craziness, please. I don't want to see Jeff Hardy in a Hall of Fame deal, basically coming in a wheelchair. That's one of those things that'll make me really sad. Oh, it's making me sad right now just thinking about it. But sad thoughts aside, first question I like to ask the new guests whenever I have them on the podcast is, what got you interested in professional wrestling, and what keeps you invested in professional wrestling today?
So growing up, I watched it with my dad and my brother. Both my brothers, and then I said this before, but I stopped watching for a couple of years, actually, because I didn't really like, the women, what they did with the women in wrestling. That was just my own personal taste. And then, about 5 years ago or so, my husband and I actually he started watching it because his nephews were into it, and he wanted to talk to them about it, and then I started watching it too, and I just found that love again for wrestling. And what keeps me in it is just, they've gotten so many great superstars on their roster. The women's wrestling is, amazing now. It's a must-see, and their NXT brand is amazing, so that's what keeps me in it.
Yeah, I will say that NXT definitely keeps WWE a bit fresh right now, and as we're recording this, you guys, I believe that we might be missing out on NXT just a little bit, and it's supposed to be a steel cage match between Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black, which I've already discussed one of the spoilers for that, so tune into that last week's episode where I talked about that. It's one of those things where it is quite a shock when you see what happens during this cage match. But yeah, you talk about the women's wrestling, it is absolutely amazing how far they have come since, even when I was watching. I was a fan in 2004, and I've been kind of watching WWE since then. To see that metamorphosis go from just them rolling around the ring or rolling on top of referees to actually putting on high-quality matches. And I think one of the staples and one of the cornerstones of the turn in women's wrestling was indeed the feud between Sasha and Bayley. Everybody still talks about their match at TakeOver. Everybody still talks about the Iron Maiden match, which is still the first women's Iron Man match, even though people are going to say, no, it was Sasha versus Charlotte. It was Bayley versus Sasha. Either way, Sasha was a part of both, so... But, yeah, it's really amazing to see how that goes from that. And even from this year, seeing them having first-time evers, it's just absolutely incredible. And you actually were a part of a all-women's podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, yeah, I was. That was fun. And I really, what I liked about that was podcasting is, one of those that is still mostly males when it comes to wrestling. So... bringing, female voices in it, and, people actually listened to us and took us serious, which was nice because that wasn't always the case for female wrestling fans, so even that has come far,
Yeah, I don't know why people really decide to not take, women's opinions as a grain of salt. We all know that they're going to take over the world one of these days, where it's just a matter of time. So, it's really good and refreshing to hear, your, female takes on it, because a lot of times all you hear is just a guy's perspective on it. And I think that's why, it's really cool to see, Rant with Ant, Who Got Next, incorporating you like Issa and yourself to really get that perspective. And it does actually give people a little bit more of an interesting voice. Now with Issa, I know that she can get a little little vocal about everything, especially when it comes to Brock Lesnar. Oops, Brock Lesnar, I'm sorry. But, yeah, I listened in to some of your stuff, and I'm just thinking, yeah, she definitely knows what she's talking about. She knows she can get the facts right. Yes, she's a Jeff Hardy fan, but then again, it's Jeff Hardy, like I said before. Whoever is not a fan of Jeff Hardy, you need to watch a lot of his early matches. Even some Impact matches I really enjoyed. Did you ever get a chance to come across his work that he did when he was doing the, at least the Broken gimmick?
A little bit at that time. I wasn't really watching wrestling that much, but I remember coming across a video of him and Matt Hardy, and they must have been the Hardy compound. They were inside, and I remember Rebby Hardy throwing a baby at Jeff, and I was like, "What is going on?" and then I kind of saw the popularity, and I'm like, it was still so crazy to me, because I grew up as a kid watching Matt Hardy and Jeff as Team Extreme, and I was like, wow, they've come a long way.
They really have, because Matt Hardy has kind of come into his own as the broken or woken Hardy, and Jeff Hardy is just a fantastic star in and of himself. And to see them do this kind of gimmick where basically Matt just thinks that he's a millennial... Okay, no, I shouldn't say think, because I don't want him to come after me. He is a, millennial, star, millennial person, a millennial soul that's gone through all these different vessels to, really just spread his, words of wisdom to people. It's one of those things where it's a different gimmick, and at first it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, this is getting really dumb, this is getting really stupid, but the more you watch it, it kind of warms up to you, and it's just kind of like, this is kind of what I remember wrestling being back in the day, where we had the gimmicks, where we had these characters that people could definitely, watch and think, yeah, this kind of is really cool. And, you talk about the Hardy Compound deals, they've done that. People might remember the Final Deletion, Great War, which is still by far one of my favorite deals that they've done. And a lot of those moments include Jeff Hardy just being absolutely wacky and zany. He had 2 characters going on. Actually, no, it was 3 if I'm not mistaken. He did his Brother Nero gimmick, Willow gimmick that he did for a brief time in, I can't remember what it was, but then he also did this crazy random character called Itchweed with 3, I think it was 2 or 3 D's or something like that, which I think he showed up during an episode of WWE, and it's one of those characters where I'm just this guy's so random, but it just shows the versatile that Jeff Hardy has. He just can be, great in the ring, but he can also be just super entertaining. So, again, I see why you love him and why he is just so well loved by the fans. So let me ask you this. What has probably been your favorite Jeff Hardy match, through at least your knowledge of, wrestling? What has probably been the one match that featured Jeff Hardy that just stood out to you the most?
For me, it's hard to remember a lot of the matches growing up, but for me, it was, the TLC matches with Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys. Like, that's always what I think of when I think of Jeff Hardy back, when I was a kid. Like, when I watched him, I was probably, like, middle school or elementary school, so yeah, those are probably my favorite matches from seeing Jeff Hardy in those matches and the crazy things that he did, and I'm surprised he can still walk to this day.
It really is. Like I said, even early on in his career, there were so many people that were just saying, like, oh, he's not going to be able to walk again. And I think what really sells it is how the commentaries really just, put it off as one of those things where it's like, oh, God, he's just messed up his whole body. I think I remember the first unofficial TLC match they did at WrestleMania 2000, WrestleMania 16, was Jeff Hardy doing that major dive off of, I think it was one of the Dudley Boys, if I'm not mistaken. And Jim Ross just has that line of, like, good God Almighty, have mercy on this kid's soul. It's just one of the things where, like, you make it seem like he's dead, and then you literally look at him and it's like, he might be dead. Okay, I understand why you're saying this. It's just
crazy.
to say the least. So I mentioned this, of course, on Twitter earlier. Definitely I will put a link to you guys in the description. You definitely need to go check out Rant with Ant on Patreon because they have this really great series called This Is Me. And one of the most recent episodes that they did actually featured you, where you definitely talked a lot about how podcasting has definitely really helped you, deal with a lot of everything that you've done with your life, as well as helped you, again, see how great it was to be a part of the wrestling community, especially the internet wrestling community, even though there's still those people that are just like, you know what, just clam it, otherwise, yep, okay, you're not going to clam it, yep, you're blocked. So, and obviously, I think this year has definitely been monumental. Ant definitely mentioned the fact that, you were part of Summer Rant, you were a part of WWE Evolution. How much of a transition, how much of a difference is it to go from the group that you know to something as massive as the Wrestle Addict Radio team?
Well, that's just, it still, like, amazes me because, like, I was a listener of Rant with Ant, and then, Ant and I became friends, and I met up with them with my husband at Brooklyn's Takeover, and that was for the Hangout, and from then on there, we were just, like, we all clicked, it feels like I've known all of them for years, and, we've only met just a few months ago, and then the fact that they even wanted me on their network was just, like, I was amazed because, like, I had told Ant, like, I came from, like, not having, like, anyone to talk to about wrestling and to now have this, like, whole world opened up to me, and it's crazy because I never would have expected this even just, like, less than a year ago. I wouldn't have expected this. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm really excited to work with Phil and Nick coming in January because this is going to be a lot of fun. Phil and I, we talk all the time. We're really good friends. He's good friends with my husband, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm honored that they even wanted me on their network.
I will say this, that there could be a day where I could do like a whole entire 1 hour podcast, maybe even like the whole 3 hours, because that's what Spreaker allows me to do. Talking about how much of a difference that the Rant with Ant, as well as Wrestle Addict Radio community, has definitely made it fun to be a wrestling fan. I remember hearing about them first from Kings of the Rings podcast because I told them, hey, I'm going to All In. It looks like it's going to be really fun. And King Ricky, he mentioned, okay, well, if you're going to be there, go to Podcast Row and go talk to these guys called Rant with Ant. They're a really cool group of guys. Definitely should go see them and talk to them and just say that, hey, I sent you, and it's like, yeah, I can definitely do that. And then I started to decide, okay, I need to know what I'm getting myself into. So I started listening into their stuff, and like you said, it's just really cool and really, amazing to hear them giving their perspectives on wrestling. And really, it's really crazy because I think that with a lot of wrestling deals, they will definitely talk about the negatives, but there'll also be times where they'll talk about the positive. And with Rant with Ant, they still try to keep things very positive. They will take some shots where they say, like, okay, this is really stupid, this is really dumb, but they always find a way to make it come full circle where it's like, okay, wrestling is still cool, and this is still why we are fans of it. And, getting to meet them at All In Chicago was just absolutely an awesome deal. I mean, Ant just came up to me, just gave me like a, kind of a bro hug, and then Phil just gave me one of the biggest hugs. I'm just like, God, this is one of the reasons why I'm really loving wrestling. So it's because of them that I think that it's made wrestling fun. You definitely hit the nail on the head, that they make wrestling so much more fun, and they make it, so that it's like you're a part of a family, and that's the one thing I absolutely love. You talk about, me knowing Ant for a couple months, but it feels like years. I feel the same way. It's one of those things where it's like we barely talk every now and then, but it still feels like, we're good enough friends to where we can be like, hey, this is going on. Hey, what do you think about this? And it's just really cool to have that kind of reassurance that, not only do you have friends that are in the wrestling community, but also part of something bigger than that. So always cool to hear that. And again, I could go on like hours and hours about talking how great and how much of a difference Rant with Ant has done. But, we only have so much time to go with, and we have so much more to talk about. So let me ask you this. What got you interested in, voicing your opinion and being a part of the podcasting community?
Well, I was approached, this was before I started the Ringside Revolution that I was on, and I was approached by someone from the church, and they were, like, I was thinking of starting a podcast, and I was looking for, like, a female host, and, was wondering if you'd be interested, and at first I was, like, wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't think I'd even be good at this, and I'm like, sure. We winded up not doing one, but then he introduced me to Greg, who then kind of helped create, because he wanted to start a female podcast, and once I heard, like, all female, I'm like, great, that's even better, because we don't have enough female podcasters, and I actually remember talking to Ann about it, that I got approached to do a show, and so I went to him for advice about it, and, he told me if I needed any help, any advice, that I could go to him. And I remember when we did our first show, I even sent it to him before it was released, like, hey, what do you think? So he's kind of been there for me as, like, a podcast mentor, and now Phil as well. And so it was just kind of one of those things that just happened. And then once I started doing it, I just fell in love with it.
It's one of those things that definitely does do It does take you to, like, a different kind of reality that you're used to, because here's a point where you can actually voice your opinions, and, at the start, you're not really exactly, judged for what you have to say, but also it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I have my freedom of speech, I can say these things, and I always make a joke during so many shows where I say, well, this might be a stupid idea, but it's my show, so na boo-boo. Where it feels like I'm just taunting people, but it's like, it's true. It's my show. If I want to talk about this, I'll talk about it. And some people, they like it. There's other people that don't have a difference of opinions, but that's the great thing about podcasting, is that, you get to voice your opinion and hear the opinions of others. A lot of times they're really good, and then there's some that are just like, oh, I don't like your opinion just because. And it's like, well, you're going to get so far in life, aren't you? Bravo. Yeah, but it's still one of those things where, even to this day, I still feel just a little bit nervous about these things. I mean, even talking to, new people, it's always nerve-wracking, because you're thinking, okay, trying not to, screw this up, trying to make sure that I make a good impression, trying to make sure that everything, works out well. One of my goals is always to have somebody, feel very special. Anytime that, their first time coming on, I always hit first, boom, got to do a really good intro for them. And I will tell you this is kind of a funny story, but as I was thinking about, having you on the show, I was thinking to myself, what could I do for her to make her, like, really build her up to this? And the first thing I wanted to do was make this joke that I was going to confuse you for Marvel character MJ Watson. I don't know if that's happened before, but it was just one of those things where I just thought to myself, what, we didn't get that MJ? Well, then who do I get? Oh, we got that MJ. Oh, that's even better. Oh. And then I thought to myself, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch. So let's just go with, like, the classic, she's great. She's part of the wrestling community. She's part of Who Got Next in January. Just going with, like, the classic deal. But, that's always going through my mind, is like, how can I make this, like, a really impactful, debut just to have them on the show? So hopefully you don't mind the fact that I shared that, corny little joke, but that was just one of the first things that came to mind.
No, that's funny, because when I was on, we were setting up I was a guest on Kings of the Ring with them, and I think it was Will, and he asked me about Spider-Man, and I was like really confused at first. And then it took a minute, I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, I will be surprised if there's not one person in this world that doesn't know who Spider-Man is, considering the fact that we're at the 4th reboot right now, quote-unquote, with the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I will say you guys definitely go watch it. It's really good. But there was a warning, because I also work at a movie theater where they said, if you have epilepsy, you're probably going to need to be cautious about this. And I will agree. There are some points where it's just like, oh, geez, I keep forgetting about that. Because there's been a couple of those animated movies where they have that kind of deal where the lights flash a lot. And I'm just like, ooh, somebody with epilepsy, well, they will not. They're going to have a hard time with this movie. This is only like the second time this year, I think, where I've seen a movie and it's like, ooh, now I understand that. That sucks. But, there's just always a lot of great stuff going on this year. And one of the things that we definitely wanted to talk about for this year was how there was a lot of really good matches going into 2018. Let's just talk about that. Let's talk about some of the best matches that happened in 2018. Always trying to make a theme for some of these podcasts, and I thought to myself, well, what are some things that we could talk about? I like to do like year-end stuff. I will say this to you guys to give you a little spoiler. Next week when I have Phil on the show, we're going to be talking about some of the best superstars of 2018. But then I thought to myself, well, what can MJ and I could talk about? We haven't really talked that much about matches, so yeah, let's just go in that direction. So let's start with you, since you are the guest of the show. What has been one of your first best matches that you can think of when it comes to the year of 2018?
So I'm starting off way back in January because I was there, and it was the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, because that Royal Rumble has always been my favorite pay-per-view. I know a lot of people like WrestleMania, but I've loved Royal Rumble. So getting to be there live and witness the first ever Women's Royal Rumble was one of my favorite experiences I've ever had going to a live show. And I think that the females, they really delivered, having all the legends come back and even throwing in some NXT stars in there. And it really made you excited for the fact that the women got a Royal Rumble that year, and I think they did it perfectly.
Definitely. Yeah, and I do agree with you. That is one of the first few things that I could think about when it comes to 2018, is that the women had a lot of firsts this year, and it all kicked off with Royal Rumble, like you said. And I will say this, ironically enough, this kind of ties in, again, with Ant. I think that's where really it started to take off for those guys, because all it took was just one viral video of Ant just going absolutely ballistic when Nikki Bella came out, and he's told about that story about
I saw that video, and it's so funny because I didn't really know him then, and I saw the video. I'm like, that's not fair. Why are people so mad at him for liking a female wrestler? Little did I know we would become great friends soon after.
Looking back, it's like, yep, that is going to be somebody who I'm going to be really good friends with, and he is a mad Nikki Bella fan, and it is one of those things where I keep watching that video, I'm just like, this is so entertaining, but also one of those things where it does, again, embrace the fact that he is a big fan, and he definitely, is not afraid to say, hey, this is who I like. You don't like it? Well, tough luck. You're not going to change my mind unless, something bad has happened. But, he's talked a lot about, that video, as well as the Bellas, even remembering him from that viral video and even sticking up for him. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, they really are just awesome people, which is, better than my experience with them. But that was one that I addressed on an earlier podcast. Basically what happened was when Nikki Bella was doing her, I think it was like almost a year-long reign, I think it was. For some reason, the Bellas followed me on Twitter. I'm just like, okay, well, what's going on here? And this is where it got really bad, because I didn't really say too many good things about the Bella Twins. So as soon as they followed me, they were just bombarding me with comments of just like, why are you following this person? Oh, this person's an idiot. This person, blah, blah, blah. I felt the rage of the Bella army. Thankfully, I don't think one of them was Ant at the time. So it's one of those things where it's like, wow, these people really are just very passionate about that. And I think that was even my first year of podcasting, if I remember correctly. So I had a lot of positive things, but that was one of the few negatives that I remember about that year, was just being followed by the Bella Twins and just getting bombarded by the Bella Army. So it was one of those things where it's like, this seems like a blessing, but this was more of a curse than anything. So Bella Twins, if you ever are listening to this episode, please don't follow me back. I don't want to hear any more of these negative comments from your fans.
Some of them can be brutal, but I think that's like the fan base with a lot of people. They just get a little too extra.
It's one of those things where it can be expected. There's some people that are just that passionate about, a certain person, which understandably so. But I also will agree with some of the comments where some are asking, why are you following this person? Why are you following this person? I'm like, yeah, why are you following me to begin with? I don't know if it's to send me a message or what. But going back to the Women's Rumble, yeah, so many great things happened during that match. We got to see, current stars. We got to see NXT stars. A lot of even the classics that came in. There was Molly Holly, Ivory, Michelle McCool, Trish Stratus, and Lita. And little did we know that they were going to be a part of a major way later down the road with WWE Evolution. But this was just one of the starting points of that, I guess you could say, major revolution. And it all ended with Asuka winning. And when we thought, okay, we're seeing, Asuka going to decide who she's going to challenge, then we had the debut of Ronda Rousey, which, topped that whole entire night off. And it made everybody just think, okay, now we're in a bit of a game-changing pace right now. So Women's Rumble definitely is one of those things that is the most memorable, but also one of those ones that is historic for a very damn good reason.
Yeah, I remember, because I had a feeling that Legends were coming back, but when Lita came out number 5, I wasn't expecting her, and as you know, I was a Jeff Hardy fan and the Hardy Boys, and so I loved Lita, and when she came out, I remember I felt so emotional, because I've never seen her live, so that was my first time seeing her live, and I wasn't expecting it, so it was definitely one for the books.
Oh, definitely. I'll follow kind of the direction you were going when we talk about matches earlier in the year. First thing that came to mind, and especially considering the fact that we had a tremendous matchup like this just a couple nights ago, was the gauntlet match between the 7 competitors for the men's Elimination Chamber match. We had it start off with Rollins and Reigns, and they put on a really good classic. And then we had Rollins and Cena, where they just, again, found a way to just tear the house down. And Seth Rollins, this is where he started really getting some of that momentum that I think a lot of people were thinking that maybe he lacked. But he was one of those guys that went out there, and I think it was for the first hour of Raw, it was just him in the ring battling against 2 guys, and then he would wind up getting eliminated by, I think it was Elias, if I'm not mistaken. After that, I think it got pretty evident who was going to win, but just the first hour of that entire match where you got to see, these 3 individuals, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and John Cena, really just tear the house down. And it's just really awesome to see that, especially when they're basically deciding, okay, who's going in the chamber last for the shot at the Universal title at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that was a great match. I remember Seth being there for an hour, and that was this is why he needs to be continue being a great star in WWE. So and it was a great way to change up things on Raw, I felt because it wasn't that hour long talking and all that. So it was definitely a memorable one. I forgot about that one, so that was a good choice.
Well, it was just kind of one of those situations where I remember watching that during the gauntlet match that we had this past Monday with the women, which also would stand out to me as one of the better gauntlet matches of all time. I honestly thought that Bayley was going to at least get 3 eliminations in, but the fact that she got 2 was yes, she's slowly starting to get that momentum again. I am totally okay with this. Even if they made it seem okay, she outlasted 2, but then she lost to Mickey. It's yeah, but she was there for almost half an hour, seemingly. Yeah. So it's totally understandable. But, all right, I think the ball's in your court. What do you got next for 2018 Best Matches?
So I have, I actually people may not agree with me, but I have Ronda and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie, because that match for me for WrestleMania, I wasn't expecting much out of it, and I thought that they put on a hell of a match. It was so entertaining to watch, and I thought that Ronda looked good for her first match.
Yeah, honestly, that was a major surprise for me. I think a lot of people definitely went into this thinking, oh boy, this is not going to end well. I mean, you have Triple H and Kurt, we've already seen this feud. Nobody really cares too much about it. Stephanie is barely that much of a wrestler, and then there's Ronda, where it's like, oh great, it's just going to be one of those people that's like, Brock Lesnar. She's only going to do like a few good moves, and then she's going to finish it off. But no, she was very versatile in that match. And she took a lot of bumps during that matchup, which surprised the hell out of me. I was literally thinking like she's going to dominate throughout the entire matchup. But no, she took a lot of deals where she wanted to tell the story that, is a pretty even match between her and Stephanie. I'm like, I'm okay with this. And like you said, to your credit, this was one of those matches that was one of the best matches on that WrestleMania card. People will remember, Asuka versus Charlotte, but they'll remember that mixed tag match, which had no right to be as good as it was, but it was, and I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't even expecting much out of it. At first I was like, whatever, I don't really care, but it was good.
It's just another one of those things where it goes to show that, a great match can come out of the ones that you just absolutely least suspect. And that was one of those matches where it's like, okay, wow, this was really good. I'm totally okay with this. I'm trying to think of like some really good matches that also happened this year. I definitely cannot, forget a lot of the takeover matches. Again, we start off the year with a really good main event between NXT champion at the time, Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano, who put on a wrestling clinic in my view. Just everything from the storytelling to the actual match itself was just done to perfection. And it's one of those matches where everybody early on is saying, oh, this is a match for your contender, this is a match for your contender. It's still one of those matches I look at and think it's hard to hold a candle to that matchup alone, because Andrade definitely built himself up very well. He definitely really started coming to his own when he got that NXT title run. And then there's Johnny Gargano, who's Johnny Wrestling, who just, what can I say more than just that? It's Johnny Wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he's called that. So, yeah, that was a good match. That match, too, like, when I think back to that, I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for SmackDown to really give Cien Almas, he's been putting on great matches on SmackDown, but I'm waiting for them to really push him, on the roster.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, he still should be in line, at least for a U.S. title run, if not one of the contenders for the WWE Championship. Obviously, right now, I don't see that happening with the new Daniel Bryan, but I could definitely see them, putting the U.S. title on a babyface and then having Almas fighting for that, which, again, I'd be totally okay for. I just think that it's just a matter of time before Almas gets that, opportunity to become a big headline star in WWE. It's just a matter of time right now. And I think with, pairing him with Zelina Vega, definitely is one of those duos that will definitely go down in the history books.
Yeah, definitely. For another match for that takeover, the ladder match for the title, the North American title.
Oh, that was such a good matchup. Holy cow.
Yeah, that was a great match. I loved it was one of those matches that you literally just can't look away. You have to focus on it because it's just that good. All those guys worked so well together in the ring, and they were so entertaining. And Adam Cole, and everyone knows my love of Ricochet. Ricochet did great. It was a really good match. You made me think of that one when you talked about TakeOver. That was a good one.
Well, I mean, Ricochet I've known for for years now, and I really grew. I will say this: I really had a huge love for him when he was Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, and as soon as he left, I'm like, oh god, no, this sucks. What's going to happen? He goes into NXT, and I can honestly say that there has not been a match that I've seen from him in NXT that has been, has not been, a show stealer, a barn burner. Any matchup on there has just been must watch. And even some of his, rivalries have been just absolutely amazing. First thing that comes to mind when it comes to Ricochet is when he did that flip from the ring to the outside right in front of Velveteen Dream. And Dream just has that face of just like, oh, this is what I'm dealing with. Okay, then. This is going to be interesting. And again, it involved another match of the year contender between the two of them. I was there for it live, and I was excited for it then. I'm excited for it now. I would love to see the rematch between the two of them because, come on, it's Ricochet versus Velveteen Dream. What more do I need to say? It just was hands down a great matchup between the two of them. I think that was also, I don't know if, I think Velveteen Dream was starting to do that whole dressing like Hulk Hogan deal, doing like the, hand to the ear, doing like, doing a leg drop deal. And it's just one of those things where he's kind of taken the negativity from Hogan and turned it into something absolutely unforgettable. But yeah, again, this was one of those matches where Velveteen Dream started to really be one of those guys where it's like, yep, he's going to be a main event level player. He's definitely going to be a main roster guy. And then there's Ricochet, who's, again, it's Ricochet, it's Prince Puma. I don't need to say anything more than that.
Yeah. Ricochet, I fell in love with. I had heard about him, but I saw him live against Flip Gordon at a Northeast Wrestling show, and that's when I really became a fan of his. So when he joined NXT, I was like, hell yes. I was so excited to watch it. I'm so excited to watch NXT with him in it. And I think that he's done really well, like you said, on that roster, and I'm hoping that they continue to do well with him, and if he gets moved up to the main roster, whether it's 205 or the main roster, I hope they continue to do well with him because he's so talented, and like you said, any match he has is so entertaining.
Just one of those things where once we get him to the main roster, it's going to be a can't-miss debut. Honestly, I could probably see him being one of the major call-ups when it comes to after WrestleMania, and I will literally be one of those people that will just be screaming, just like, yes! I finally get Prince Puma on my main roster TV! You're giving me a reason to watch wrestling again. Thank you, WWE. It's about time. Oh, man. But, did you have another matchup by chance?
Let's see. I actually have Mustafa versus Cedric for WrestleMania.
Oh, yes.
Because those two, they're in Mustafa Ali, I'm so happy for him that he's a part of the SmackDown roster now. I did want him to get the Cruiserweight title, but, he's going to do great things, and they think highly of him, and he got that pin against Daniel Bryan. And Cedric Alexander, I've loved since the Cruiserweight Classic. He was my favorite, after watching that. So their match those two are just so talented, and it's one of those things that shows when you're friends, you have great chemistry in the ring, and those two, I think they have great chemistry whenever they have a match together.
I look back at Cedric Alexander, and I always say the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Cedric is it was a No Louds Noises match between him and I think it was a guy by the name of ACP or ACH, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those things where they put on still a really good matchup, but they also made it super entertaining, where they just literally tried to not make any loud noises whatsoever, and they even got the audience to really follow along with it, where instead of the claps, they were doing whispers and doing finger snaps. It's just so funny. And even they tried any moments there was a loud noise, you just hear the audience going shh, just really just try to just embrace the matchup itself. And there's even a point where Cedric forgets the fact that he was a part of a No Louds Noises match. He's just saying, while the guy's on the outside, he's like, count him! The audience is like, shh! And Cedric's like, oh, sorry! He's just one of those guys who, even this year, Cedric has a fantastic year as Cruiserweight champion, but it all started with, as you said, him and Mustafa Ali at WrestleMania. That definitely deserved to be on the main card, not the pre-show. Also, why was the Cruiserweight title matchup on the pre-show again at TLC? I thought we were out of that at Survivor Series.
Too.
But as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh god, no, we're going back to square one. No, this is not at all what I thought was going to happen. You should have at least put the chairs match between Ray and Randy on the pre-show. I'm sorry, but I love Ray. But at the same time, that was one of those matches where it's I kind of want to forget it. It was not that good, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm never really a fan of the pairs match stipulation. So, I mean, I didn't really care that much going into it, and I think the Bobby Lashley and Elias, I was glad that was on the pre-show because that belonged there. So, yeah, I wish that the Cruiserweights were on the main card, but like always, they do what they need to do, and they kill it in the ring every single time. I just wish that there were more people that appreciated them.
I'm going to kind of cheat with this one because you mentioned 205 Live. Buddy Murphy has had some of the best matches of his entire career in this year alone, and it's all thanks to, I think, two matches in particular. One being his match with Mustafa Ali on 205 Live. I think it was a no disqualification matchup, if I'm not mistaken. And then his matchup with Cedric Alexander at the Super Showdown show in Australia. Those two matches definitely cemented his career as one of those guys that is going to be one of those guys that people are going to have to watch and see how well that he's progressed, because a lot of people have to remember he was a tag team on NXT with oh gosh, I'm trying to remember his name, Buddy Murphy and oh gosh,
the one from the Lost Son or Lost Boy. I forget what his name was too.
Oh gosh, I think
that shows what an impact he was.
But I remember his name was Blake. I forgot his first name though. It was like Wesley. No, it wasn't Wesley Blake. Whatever. But yeah, just seeing how Buddy Murphy has just evolved and become one of those stars that everybody are just looking at and thinking, wow, he's going to be a key player on the main roster when he gets the call up. Because I think that's only going to be a matter of time before they decide, okay, we're going to bring Buddy Murphy on here. He's going to be a really good heel, and he's going to be one of those guys that everybody's going to watch. Honestly, I would kind of like to see a team up between Andrade Cien Almas and Buddy Murphy, now that I think about it. That's just me, but Buddy Murphy this year put on those two great matches, and they definitely show the turning point for the 205 Live roster, because a lot of times a lot of people watch that and they're just like, oh, I don't care, this is not really worth anything, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But because of these matches that they're putting on, and because of people like Mustafa Ali, like Cedric Alexander, and I'll even throw Hideo Itami on there, because even though he doesn't wrestle too much on 205 Live, from what I've seen, he's putting on a lot. He's doing a lot of just like random entertaining stuff that I look at and think to myself, did we just flip a switch when it comes to this guy? Because there was a point where I did not care about Hideo Itami, but now it's like I want him more on my TV now because he's just so funny.
Yeah, and as far as like Buddy Murphy, I'm still like amazed at how far he's come, because I kind of felt like he was going to be one of those that I was going to see a future endeavor thing. But he's made such a turnaround, and it was Wesley Blake. I looked it up. It was Wesley Blake.
Oh, it was Wesley Blake.
Who was his tag partner. But yeah, no, he's done a really great job, and I was really happy for him when he won the Cruiserweight title in Australia, even though I didn't care about the Super Showdown, but getting to see him win it in his hometown was really cool.
It was a really awesome moment. It was one of those things where it, brought up the point that, anything could happen in WWE. I think a lot of people, when they thought of the Australia show, they're like, oh, great, we're going to see, the Iconics get buried, we're going to see Buddy Murphy get buried. No, they both won on their home turf, and it's like, oh, well, okay then, that's pretty cool. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad they didn't continue that hometown curse for them, because, they don't get to really go to their hometown as much as other people do.
Definitely not. All right, so ball's in your court. What we got next?
What was another good match? Of course I have to say Ricochet versus Adam Cole at SummerSlam.
Oh my gosh. This was one of those matches that I remember very fondly about, because these two guys just, again, put on a wrestling clinic, and everybody is still kind of ticked off about how there's that point where, Ricochet's doing like the springboard moonsault and Adam Cole does the super kick. People are just like, no, that should have been a finish right there. That should have been the finish. I'm like, I don't care. No, I'm okay with this. They're putting on an awesome matchup. I'm at the point where it's like, I don't care who wins, but if Ricochet wins, I will literally just be absolutely ecstatic, elated. And as soon as he hit that 630 splash, I'm just like, oh my gosh, wait, 1, 2, 3. Yes! Yeah. Prince Puma's a champion in WWE. It's NXT. I don't care. He's going to be a champion. This is awesome.
When I was watching, I I went to that, I saw that live, and I was with my husband, and he was like, oh, Adam Cole's gonna win this. So, of course, I'm like, no, Ricochet's gonna win. I had my Ricochet shirt on, too, and when he won, I remember I, like, went in his face, and I was like, I told you he was gonna win it. And he was like, oh, whatever.
kind of like that, whatever, but deep down he's just like, you failed me, Adam Cole.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that was such a good match. That was probably one of my favorites, top 5 favorites of the year.
Oh, geez.
Top 3.
I find that very hard to disagree with because, like we said, it was really good. The storytelling was just fantastic. I was not thinking that they were going to take the belt off of Adam Cole, as I don't want to say as soon as they did, but it's kind of one of those things where it felt like he just kind of got it, and they haven't really done too much with it. But then they put it on Ricochet, and he's done so much with that championship ever since he won it. He's had great battles with Adam Cole. He's had the match with Pete Dunne. Even that triple threat match where you had all 3 of them in the ring, which, oh god, that was another really good matchup on the list. And then even recently, he had the really good match between him and Tyler Breeze, which to me that was one of those things that surprised me, where they were just like, oh, it's going to be a big sign guy, it's going to be a big surprise, and I'm just like, okay, well, who literally could do this? And at first I listened to the music and I'm thinking to myself, is that The Miz? Are we getting Ricochet versus The Miz? And then as soon as I hear, look everyone, it's time, it's like, oh my god, we're getting old-fashioned Tyler Breeze against Ricochet. I am okay with this. I literally sent a tweet and I just said, William Regal, I could kiss you right now. This is such an amazing moment right now. Just thank you so much. I reminded people, it's like, you have to remember, Tyler Breeze was one of the cornerstones of NXT when they first started, doing a lot of those shows. When they did the takeovers, when they did the arrivals, he was one of those guys that stood out as guys you definitely want to watch because he's going to have a really good match.
Mm-hmm. I'm sad that the Ricochet and Tyler Breeze thing was ruined for me by Ricochet because he posted about it, and I'm like, this is something I would have been so excited. I mean, I was excited anyway, but like just get that surprise factor would have been amazing because, like you said, like Tyler Breeze was so good in NXT, and I'm so sad that they don't feature him that much on the main roster. So I was really excited he got to go back to his home turf. So, and I knew that they were going to put on a good match because Tyler Breeze is so good, and Ricochet is great. So I knew they were going to put on a good match, and they did.
Yeah, he's not dubbed the Prince Pretty for just a gimmick deal. He is Prince Pretty because his every single thing in what he does in the ring is just absolutely gorgeous. And even there's a chant, if you remember, during that matchup where they were just chanting, "This is gorgeous." I'm just like, yes, it is. This matchup is so gorgeous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm a happy, happy boy. So I'll mention this one other WWE matchup before I get into a couple other matches that didn't happen in WWE. That's a shock, I know, ladies and gentlemen, that WWE is not the only one that could hone in great matches. I have to throw the Triple Threat TLC match from this past Sunday as one of the Match of the Year contenders, just because of the fact that everything from that matchup, yes, it was brutal, the storytelling was just absolutely fantastic, and just how it ended with Asuka getting the title. It was one of those moments where I literally said that I saw Ronda coming out. I'm like, okay, what's going on? I will say this, that during that time, my network, for some reason, just decided to just blank out on that. I'm just like, what? No, what happened? And it came back when Ronda was going up the ramp, and I just see Becky Lynch and Charlotte on the outside. I was like, no! What's going on? No! But I saw it on the replay, like, okay, so I didn't... that's what I missed. Okay. Then just seeing Asuka climbing up the ladder, I'm like, oh my god, is this happening? Is this seriously happening? I just grabbed onto my pillow. I just remember just biting into it, thinking, oh my god, this is happening. Asuka then gets the title belt. I just remember just beating the ever-living crap out of my pillow, just like, yes! So happy that she finally gets it. She started off winning the Royal Rumble and ends by being the champion. Thank God. I remember just saying, I think I need a new pillow now because this one is just, it's dead. It's completely dead. Just, I just love that matchup. It was absolutely amazing.
It was. And I was so glad that it was the main event because it deserved it, and it showed exactly why it needed to be in that main event spot. And of course, you know, I love the man, Becky, and I was sad that she lost the title, but I'm still really happy for Asuka. She deserves it. It's really cool that she ended the year with the title after winning Royal Rumble in the beginning of the year. I think that this is just opening up a door for Becky to hopefully main event WrestleMania, because that would just be amazing, especially since I'm going to be there for my first ever WrestleMania Live.
Yay! And I will be joining you on that. It's going to be an absolutely unforgettable night. But something I actually just realized is, as far as big matches go, this is one of the first few times that, with a lot of the big events, it started off with a women's main event, and it ended the year with a women's main event. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, I didn't just realize that until now. I really like that, actually.
I didn't realize that either until you just said that, that's huge, especially, like, for me being a female fan and knowing that I stopped watching it because of how the women were treated. Like, that's so big, and 2018 was such a big year for the women, and I think 2019 is going to be even bigger, and it just makes me so excited to watch women's wrestling now, that everyone's excited to watch women's wrestling now, and that makes me excited.
It's a beautiful day to be a wrestling fan, especially if you love women's wrestling, especially in WWE. Definitely go check out WWE Evolution. I cannot promote that enough, but also the TLC match. Just watch that. Just please, by all means. So, do you have any more matches by chance?
Actually, you mentioned Evolution, and I actually had Becky and Charlotte Evolution.
Yes! Oh my god. Another matchup that's just, like, I will say this, I do get a little graphic, but only a little bit. I just say, like, this is like wrestling ecstasy for me, because these matches are just so good. Holy cow, I need a cigarette after this one. It was really just, again, great storytelling. Charlotte and Becky just are able to put on a fantastic matchup. And I think that I'm really seeing Charlotte becoming the Sandman of the women's division, which it's not an insult. It's just the way that she's basically deciding, hey, I'm just going to take a kendo stick and beat everybody up with it. That's where I'm just getting it from.
Yeah, that was a good match. That was a brutal match in a good way. And, I remember I was watching it, and I'm like, this is why, like, people need to watch women's wrestling. This is it right here. Like, if you ever question women's wrestling, like, this is what you need to watch. And getting to be there in person was Evolution is still my favorite moment that I've ever experienced, because it was just so amazing to watch all those people out there to support the women, and to see them bring it. Even the Battle Royal, which I wasn't a fan of, I thought they did a great job with that. Seeing Trish and Lita fight, like, that was a good one. I could, like, name the whole entire pay-per-view as great matches.
It is one of those events that definitely stand out as, you know, events of the year. And also, weren't you there for that live when it was going on? Yep. I was there. We did the tailgate beforehand, which was so much fun with Kings of the Ring. Helped raise money for breast cancer. That was great. And then went inside. I actually went with my sister-in-law too, which we had never went to a show together. This was our first time, and this was my first time even going without my husband. But he wasn't sure if he could get off work and to go, so he was like, you guys can have the girl time for the female pay-per-view. And so it was a great bonding experience with her, and it was just a great show to experience live, to get to be a part of the first ever women's pay-per-view. Were you at all offended by Will's dance when he was doing the Jeff Hardy deal?
No, it was because of me that he did it.
Oh, well.
we talked about it on when I was a guest on their podcast, and the Jeff Hardy sleeves that he was wearing were actually mine, that I brought with me, because I said that I would bring the sleeves and he could do the Jeff Hardy dance, and he did.
One of the most unforgettable moments of probably all podcasting as well as wrestling is just him doing the Jeff Hardy dance, and people are just clapping along. I'm just like, oh, dude, I have big hopes for him when it comes to WrestleMania time. I don't know if there's going to be like a WrestleMania tailgate or whatever, but if there's something like that where we see Will just do like a random entrance for a wrestler, I want to see that. I want to record that, because it's one of those things that just, it was an awesome thing to witness.
It was so much fun. And I remember Phil was like, I blame you for this, MJ. Look what you did to him. And I'm like, I think this is wonderful. I'm proud to have caused this to happen.
I am proud of my creation. Never has a creator been more proud of this than Frankenstein creating the Frankenstein monster.
Exactly. I even helped him put the sleeves on, because they're a little tricky, putting those on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember the kids one where they didn't have the holes in them, but they had the ones where I'm trying to remember. It was like a purple band, and for the holes they just had this fabric or something on them that were just colored or something like that. And even those were they were just a pain just to get on and get off. Jeff, please make apparel that just will be easy just to slip on and slip off. I know that's difficult for you. Make it easy for the fans, just a little bit, man. I'm not dissing Jeff. I'm just stating for anybody who listens to this that they need to really make Jeff Hardy apparel that's easily suitable to be slipped on, slipped off. But all I was going to say was other matches that stood out that are not WWE related. I have to say this because I was there for All In. Okay, I was at the All In viewing party, but still, it was awesome because I got to talk a bit with Hurricane. I got to sit next to Gail Kim and Victoria, which was still one of the highlights of that entire weekend. But I'm trying to think of some of the matches there that were stood out, and two that come to mind were Pentagon versus Kenny Omega and Marty Scurll versus Okada. Those two matches were the matches that I looked at and I think to myself, this is what makes wrestling just absolutely wonderful. Because, again, Kenny Omega versus Pentagon, a matchup I didn't think that I needed. A match I didn't think I wanted until I watched it. I'm like, I needed this in my life. I get to see New Japan versus Lucha Underground. I am totally okay with this. I am happy right now. This is like wrestling heaven for me. And then just seeing Marty Scurll versus Okada. The size difference was one of those things that I was a little worried about. But no, Marty Scurll held his own against Okada. There was a moment where Okada was setting up for the Rainmaker. I'm like, oh boy, this is it. And then Marty Scurll just grabs the hand. And I know that he does his signature, finger break deal. I'm like, oh, here it comes. Oh boy. Well, welcome to America, Okada. Okay, no, I'm sure that wasn't his first time in America. But it's just one of those things where it was just like, oh, man, you just got schooled by Marty Scurll. He found a way to counter the Rainmaker, dude. And just those two matches alone, and All In as a whole was just great. But when I think about, two matches that stood out among the rest, those two were the ones that I loved. And don't make me decide between the two of them because they were both just really damn good.
I won't do that to you, but it's funny because I don't normally watch that much wrestling outside of WWE, but I did watch All In, and it was really good. I enjoyed every minute of it, and then I went with my brother, husband, and Phil went, and Dave from Kings of the Ring. We all saw Kenny Omega live at Northeast Wrestling recently, and we got to see him against Ray Phoenix, and that was a really good matchup too. And I had seen Kenny Omega stuff, but getting to see him live was a really cool experience.
Oh gosh, I can only imagine how beautiful of an experience it was. Just Kenny Omega just seems like one of those guys who not only, appreciates his fans outside the ring, but also inside the ring by putting on the best matches that you'll ever see.
Yeah, definitely.
But if I had to close off at least my end with best matches for this year, definitely cannot overlook New Japan. I wanted to end with a Lucha Underground one, but it's like, no, but they're still New Japan. They've got so many great things. And just the feud and the matchup between Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho is one that I think stands out so much. Just, it really is one of those matches that really shows that, hey, Chris Jericho, even at his age, he's still got it. It doesn't matter what people say. He's one of those guys that will always have it. I could see him doing a moonsault when he reaches 60 years old, and he will still look absolutely fantastic doing it. Just, again, this matchup itself, great. It told a great story. The build-up to it was just absolutely fantastic, and it delivered in some of the best ways. And a lot of people will say, but what about Omega versus Okada? Here's the thing. yes, they put on really good matches, but we've also seen that at least, what is it, like 4 or 5 times, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of loses that, special quality when, you do that. And for me, I think it's just one of those things where it's like a marked moment where it's like, you know what? It's an awesome moment because I get to see Chris Jericho, the best in the world, against Kenny Omega, who is literally another guy who can be dubbed best in the world. And they put on a wrestling clinic.
Yeah. I've only watched some of that match. Like I said, I don't really watch that much of the non-WWE, but it was, Chris Jericho, and he changes himself. He evolves, so much within wrestling. He's been a part of wrestling for so long, and he finds different ways to make himself relevant again. And that's something that's definitely something to look up to, and shows why he is one of the best in the business. So the fact that he can still go toe-to-toe with someone like Kenny Omega and pull out a great match and do such a great gimmick within New Japan, that it's pretty cool to see.
It really is, and it opens up a lot of possibilities to maybe another rematch between the two of them. I mean, honestly, who doesn't want to see the New Japan Intercontinental Champion versus the New Japan World Champion? I mean, come on, it just says it right there. And again, I think I might be hypocritical now that I say that, because it's like, but we already saw that match between Jericho and Omega. I'm a mark for that match. I'm sorry, I'm just a mark for that. Just leave me alone. But all right, so we'll finish off with you, Miss MJ. What has been one of those matches, again, that has just stood out as the best of 2018? Even if you have to claim that this one is your number one, which would you pick?
My number one, I'm going to probably say Becky and Charlotte for Evolution.
Oh, yep. I am totally okay with this.
It's so much more of a difference too, because you see great matches, but then when you're there in person, it just makes it that much better. So I feel very lucky to have seen such a great match in person, and it's one of those that just made me so proud to be a female wrestling fan.
It's one of those matches where, also, I know a lot of people will definitely say, no, it wasn't the first time ever. That was Nikki Cross versus Asuka. I guarantee you there's a lot of people that have basically forgotten about that, because Charlotte versus Becky definitely just took that matchup, not only burned it, but also gave it a proper funeral by saying, okay, in your memory, we're going to put on an even better matchup. And that is exactly what we got at WWE Evolution. Again, storytelling was fantastic. Everything that they did was great. Just so happy about that. And honestly, I'm curious where they're going to be going with at least Charlotte in this deal. Maybe they're going to have the rematch between Asuka and Charlotte at WrestleMania, which honestly I'd be down for. I'd be down to see the rematch between the two of them. If they want to turn this into a Rock versus Stone Cold deal, where it's like, well, we'll use them during house shows and stuff like that, but we'll mainly use them for big shows like WrestleMania. It's like, I'm okay with this. I'm totally fine with this. Just don't make a mistake of doing something where you maybe you screw it before WrestleMania happens. But oh man, that was an excellent listing of so many great matches throughout the year. Just man, I feel a little lightheaded just talking about this, because of the fact that so many great memories of these matches. 2018 had a lot of ups, had a lot of downs, but as long as we look at the positives, then we can definitely say that 2018 was indeed a game-changing turn of the tide when it comes to professional wrestling as a whole. So I want to thank you, first of all, MJ, for being a part of this show and for giving your list and for just reminding me of how great wrestling was in 2018.
Thank you for having me, and it was fun because you even made me remember some matches and reminded me of how great, like you said, how great 2018 was for wrestling, and I'm just really excited for 2019 because I think it's going to be even better.
It definitely will be. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the cheap plugs. This is the part of the show where I basically give my guests as well as myself the time to, plug in where they can find you, where they can listen into you. So, by all means, MJ, where can people find you? How can people listen to your opinions about professional wrestling? How can they interact with you on social media?
So I have my Twitter, which I like to live tweet on Mondays and Tuesdays. Once in a while on Wednesdays, but I like to just enjoy NXT. It's MJ_Santi with 2 I's. My Instagram is the same. You can catch me coming up on Who Got Next, which is on the Rant with Ant Network. And you can catch that on iTunes or Google Play. Still getting familiar with that. It comes out every Friday with Phil and Nick. You could also follow the Who Got Next Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, guys, I definitely will tell you this right now, that I might probably have to make, Who Got Next a part of my weekly resume now that, they're adding MJ on, because this is one of those episodes where it does give me the chance to interact with one of the future hosts, I think one of the key players when it comes to the Wrestle Addict Radio, but also I've heard, Phil definitely be one of those guys that is just awesome, and I'm looking forward to talking with him next week, you guys, so a little cheap plug for that. But yeah, by all means, go check out Wrestle Addict Radio. They have so many great podcasting networks that are a part of that. They have the Who Got Next, as she mentioned. They also have the Gift of Podcast, as well as Rant with Ant, Kings of the Ring podcast. And I feel like, oh gosh, I think there's one more. I'm trying to remember exactly who else was a part. Give me a hand here, MJ. What was the other one? I think that there's one more in there.
Which ones? You said Rant with Ant,
yep.
And Kings of the Ring. We have Gift of Podcast, Smash This Podcast.
Smash This Podcast. That was what I was thinking. Okay. that was the one that I was thinking about. And guys, you definitely know how to follow me on Twitter. You definitely know that you could give us a like in the description below for Facebook, as well as follow us here on Spreaker.com, as well as check us out at iTunes, iHeartRadio, as well as on YouTube, you guys. Thank you so much for joining this. So for MJ, I've been Nate the Effing Great. We got more coming throughout this week. So for the Game Changer, have a good one, and talk to you in the next episode. Bye-bye.